Welcome to the Infill Podcast, where we interview the most interesting members of the 3D printing and maker communities, live and with audience participation. And now, here is your host, Jonathan Levy.
Hello, friends, and welcome to another on-the-road edition of the Infill Podcast. I'm really excited to have today's guest on and share his story with all of you. Before we do that, though, let's go ahead and thank our sponsor with one of my favorite segments, What's Printing, Jonathan? However, today, nothing is printing, as you can see, because I am away, but I do want to show you guys something really cool, which is a feature of today's sponsor, Octo Everywhere, which allows you to add your printer right into Orca Slicer or your slicer of choice using a secure URL that you can then share, which will allow you to just print as if you were in the same place with your printer. Not only does it allow you to print directly to the printer as if you were on the same Wi-Fi, but also when the printer is on, you can use the device tab and everything just works seamlessly and securely as if you were right there in the room with the printer. I highly recommend Octo Everywhere. I use it for all my compatible printers, and now it's even compatible with the Elegoo Centauri Carbon. So thanks to Octo Everywhere for sponsoring this part of the episode. On to today's guest. Today we are joined by Joel Finn. Many of you know and love him for his role as a community manager at Polymaker. He's also a father of 5 and a husband and a hardcore 3D printing and filament enthusiast. I think he's the only person who has more filament than I do in his personal collection. Joel, welcome to the show, my friend. How are you?
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for having me.
It is a pleasure.
I try to hold that title of the filament procurement, manager.
Yeah, man, for your household, for sure. Joel, first of all, I should share with folks that you and I have been working together for a year now. Polymaker does support the channel. Thank you guys so much for that. But you support a lot of the 3D printing community, robotics communities. Before we get into all of that, though, tell me your personal story, how you got into 3D printing.
The 3D printing started for me right around 7 years ago with the Ender 3 OG. I actually bought it secondhand from a friend. We had toyed with the idea for probably a year prior of getting into 3D printing, but it was just the price point, the risk. It was like we both adopt a lot of tech, and then a lot of that becomes a phase. And I'm like, we're waiting for each one to take the bullet. And finally, my buddy Chad got a printer. Actually, got a Monoprice, one of the tiny little guys. End up checking in with him like 3 months later. I'm like, are you still printing with that thing? He's like, oh, I sold it. I already bought a new one. Upgraded to the Ender 3. Another 3 months passed, and I follow up with him again. I'm like, you still using it? He's like, oh no, I love it. So like, I'm actually looking to buy another one. He's like, do you want to buy this one for me? So I got it super cheap from a friend, and that just that started the dive into the rabbit hole.
Very cool. And by the way, I don't know if this is something you can solve or if it's on my end, but when you speak, your microphone is scratching. Is anyone in chat hearing that as well? It's like they're static, but only when you speak. I don't know if we can fix that, but it's not terrible if we can't fix it. But that's really cool. So you were really one of the early adopters of consumer 3D printing. I would ask a stupid question, how have things changed since then? But I think we all know. But tell me what 3D printing was like back then, and specifically, what was the community like? I mean, was there that much of a community, or was it just weirdos here and there on the internet? Oh, we lost your mic. Live show, ladies and gentlemen.
Live show.
There we go. You're back.
All good?
Yep.
Okay, there we go. But yeah, so what's changed, the community itself and everything is when I started, I was kind of a hermit to 3D printing. My friend that 3D printed also, he's about an hour and a half from me, so I didn't have anybody around me, and I lurked in the streams and things like that, but I wasn't really a part of any community until about 4 years later. I kind of just did my own thing, printed for fun, upgraded printers, this and that, but it wasn't for about 4 years when I actually won some filament off of Loyal Moses stream, which was Polymaker Filament. I'd never used it. I used like everything else off of Amazon. I went to Micro Center for Inland. But then, like I said, I won a handful of spools, started printing with it, and then went to the website and realized, wow, Polymaker's got a lot of colors. And I went into it from there, joined their Discord, at that point. So I think it was October of 2022 is when I actually joined the Polymaker Discord, and I still did some lurking for a while. I mean, I participated here and there, but it was took a while. It was probably about 5 years till I was really kind of active, I guess you would say. But I mean, even in that short time and just the few years since then, I mean, the community has grown. Of course, the tech has grown exponentially, but the
Yeah.
community has grown and has still been supportive. It's still reminiscent of when I joined, of people just being very welcoming, very
Mhm.
knowledgeable, and supportive. So it's grown in all good ways thus far. So it's been nice to take that over from Nick back when I joined Polymaker.
Now, have you noticed in all your time being in 3D printing, but also in the community, that what people are printing has changed as more filaments have become available, printers have become better? Like, is we like to think, oh, it was mostly knickknacks in the early days, but is that true from your perspective, that really people are printing more and more functional, sophisticated stuff?
And yep, absolutely. I've always said is as that it's grown and more people become 3D printers. An offshoot from that is people become designers. So we see we of course still see the knickknacks, the fidgets, the fun stuff, but no, I mean the functional things. Some of the people that they come up with moving parts and the mechanisms behind them is it still baffles me how people still come up with new ideas and we're already this far into it, and it's still surprising, daily.
To me, it feels like really only in the last 3 years, enclosed printers have become the norm. That's obvious. But also, like, at the consumer level, the filaments that we're getting now, we can do crazy stuff. Like, I'm working on a 3D 30-day CAD challenge, and this is just a prototype in PETG, but I'm literally printing things that should be aluminum or even steel, and I'm not even worried. Like, you can see here, this is going to be clamped on the layer lines, and I'm just like, I'm just going to
Nope.
print it in PPSCF because we can do that now. And it's crazy to me, like, the capabilities. Do you think that I mean, I know you're not in a technical role at Polymaker, but you're privy to information that I'm not. Do you think there's more to go, or do you think we've kind of reached this a little bit of a plateau in the last few years with the PPSCFs and all that kind of stuff? Like, do you think there's even more hardcore advancements to be made in the polymer side?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even if you would ask me this question a year ago, I'd be like, I think yeah, we're plateaued at this point. There's what else could we come up with? But to see
Really?
and know some of the inside of R&D of what they're working on, and I mean, there's so many more materials that you would never think of mixing and blending, and characteristics that you can get out of different filament types by adding this, subtracting this. It's crazy. I'm getting more involved with the technical side just because I'm good
Right.
friends with a lot of our product managers. So I kind of get the insight of what's being developed, what are you guys working on, and it still shocks me to see the materials that we're coming up with. And yeah, there's always with Polymaker, we've come internally to say there's always more to come.
That's very interesting. I get the sense that Polymaker is a little bit, this is going to polarize people, but Polymaker is a little bit like Apple in the sense that you guys aren't first to market with any one polymer, but you guys wait and really perfect it. And I think people don't know, like, Polymaker is very much a material science company. I believe the founders are all like
Oh, absolutely.
PhDs in chemistry. A lot of the filament
Many,
companies,
many dollars in this company.
there's many doctors running the company, actually, not just on the payroll. um, Nick one time told me, like, we're a polymer science company that happens to specialize in filament, as opposed to an engineering company that makes filament like some other companies. That, by the way, the CEO of eSun is a doctor in philosophy, I recently learned, which is pretty funny. um, and people don't
Well, nice
realize
to know,
that. But I do get the impression that Polymaker is more of a take your time culture of, okay,
yeah.
everyone's coming out right now with PEBA. You guys haven't rushed to PEBA to market, but I get the impression that when you guys do it, it's going to be a little bit different, maybe a little bit more perfected.
Yeah, and that's the big thing is I've learned being part of the company now is our R&D kind of team consists of I think over 80 employees. It's probably larger than that. That's a couple months ago, so it's ever growing, and they're working on things nonstop. And that's one the process that we go through for creating product. Again, being friends with our product managers and learning really what's involved with it. It's we're not the company that says, "Hey, this is the latest greatest. Let's just pump it out." We have the capability. Of course, we have a large facility, amazing R&D team. We could throw any material that releases out there and spit it out into a spool. But like you said, as we go about it the right way of the printability, is it something that I'm even going to enjoy printing? Is it going to cause headaches? Yes, I have this filament, but it has all these issues as I'm trying to print with it. And that's where we kind of do take that different role of, we want it to be, not to be cliche, but the perfect filament for somebody to print with the least amount of outside interference.
Yeah, and it's gonna sound like I'm shilling for you guys, but it actually works the other way, which is I approached you guys and said, "Hey, I'm using your filament in every video. It is my favorite filament. Can you guys support me?" And you guys were kind enough to. So
Easy decision. Yeah.
it has been my, thank you. It has been my filament of choice long before, even when I was paying for it as opposed to the free filament I was getting offered. And I've often said, like, even the commodity plastics, like the ABS and ASA, they smell less. They are less hygroscopic. Like, there is some obviously secret magic science that you guys are doing to some of your filaments to where they behave a little bit differently, which I think.
And that's the thing where we've tried to do our best educating, all the community, all the consumers. Is there are things, characteristics. If you want, less warping, you want less smell. There are things that might be a takeaway. We try to balance it out as much as possible to, again, have the best filament for the purpose or the application use. And with that, there comes a lot of that polymer science that goes into it. That it's not just throw the plastic in the hopper, let it extrude out, and hope for the best.
It's absolutely crazy because in plastics we use these handles, right? We're like, okay, I mean, even in metals, right? Aluminum is not aluminum. Like, is it what grade of aluminum and what? But in plastics, we do it even more, where we say like, oh, it's PLA, or PLA Pro is the worst offender, and it's like, but it's not just, right? It's kind of like saying this is bread. Well, what kind of flour is in the bread, and what percentage, and what So I do find that very interesting, and it makes it very hard from Polymaker or some of the other premium filament maker's perspective, where it's like you're being compared against just pure commodity plastic. How has Polymaker's strategy been? Because I feel like you guys don't lean as hard on that, hey, this isn't just ASA, this is our ASA blend. Is that something intentional where you guys don't want to toot your own horn, or is it something you want to focus on more to say like, hey, we put a lot of engineering into this?
So what I've seen working within Polymaker now is, and this is Joel, not Polymaker Joel talking, is what I've seen is we're very humble about it. Is even before I joined, you never heard them tell, we're one of the largest 3D printing filament companies in the world. Are we? I haven't ever got a direct answer, even as an employee. Like, they don't want to answer that question. So I think it's just that same approach towards everything. Is we don't want to tout and hype up this and that. We want the consumer to decide. Is use it. And that's where a lot of people ask you. Of course, we do a ton of giveaways. Yeah. How does that benefit Polymaker? It puts the filament in your hands to use, and then you make that decision. Is the color good? Is the printability good? And honestly, again, not to sound cheesy, is we want the product to sell itself. Is we shouldn't have to hype it up and do $1 million marketing to say this is the best filament in the world. Nothing compares. Everybody else is just grade B. We're grade A. So it's I think that's what I've loved about, even before, again, being part of the company, is seeing from the company is just that being genuine.
Yeah, and I think it does. I mean, once in a while I'll get a comment like, oh, well, Polymaker is this much more expensive. But most of the time people acknowledge like, yeah, but you're getting a different, better product.
Get what you pay.
And I think, by the way, that's also a refreshing strategy. Like, Polymaker is a predominantly Chinese company, but focusing on the premium market, right? Premium in terms of the color matching, premium in terms of the blends. Similar to some other companies in 3D printing we've seen, where they're like, we're based in China, but we offer a premium product. Have you had a chance to go out to China and tour some of Polymaker's facilities?
Not yet. I'm hoping. I think next year. I don't know exactly when, but I've heard all the stories. One of my friends, the product manager, Polymaker Pete, has been out there. He was there early this year, and just talking about the factory, the expansions. Where there's a lot to be toured, and I hope at that point I can kind of I like to bring the community along with things like that. So maybe a live stream from the factory. I'm not promising, but we'll see what.
Let me know when you go. Maybe I'll pop over.
Oh,
I've
absolutely. We can
I
terrorize the
think
whole factory.
yeah, absolutely. It's pretty far outside of my normal path in China, but I would
Yeah,
make a
because
special trip for
we're
that.
I think southwest of Shenzhen in Changshu.
Okay. Yeah, very cool. And we have some lovely comments as well. Tech Jeeper says, I've never seen a company in any of my 2,284 hobbies that I've had been so involved with the community as Polymaker. So clearly, you're doing a great job as community manager. And 3D Print SOS says, it's an honor giving away Polymaker filament too. One of the highlights of my streams is that I can give away some filament at the end, and it's a great feeling and a win for everyone involved. So thank you on behalf of the
Absolutely.
community for everything you guys do.
Thank you all for your
Now I want to
support.
ask, yeah, we asked about China. You guys have done a lot of investment in Texas, and
Yes.
not just sales roles. I think there's now manufacturing. So tell us about that strategically. Obviously, tariffs are a consideration, but what's going
Yeah.
on? Do you know how much of the manufacturing is actually going to move to Texas?
So the goal is always, of course, as much as possible. There's the growing pains. We do have, I don't know if I can say how many lines. We have several extrusion lines in our factory in Houston, and it serves as a factory slash warehouse. So they do warehouse every single SKU there. Manufacturing wise,
Wow.
I don't know what it's up to now. It's over 20 SKUs we manufacture in the U.S. Most of that is for wholesale customers. So it's got your,
Oh,
white, black, and gray, ASA, ABS, PLA. They have started manufacturing colors and stuff. So what people are going to start seeing is we're doing what's called kind of split ordering. If you order, say, 15 spools of filament from Amazon, and Amazon can only fulfill 10 of them, if we can fulfill them in Houston, we'll ship 5 of those from the Houston factory. You'll know
wow.
because it'll say on the packaging, made in the USA. But we stay true to having that same consistency, the same color matching. So it's not a different filament; it's just produced in a different different location. But the
Yeah.
goal is to up production as much as possible. I don't know. I think we have some other locations that were old warehouse. That's probably about as much as I can say. But there could be much more expansion there. But they run 3 shifts. It's 24/7. The extrusion lines are nonstop. At any time you can't walk in there because it's not public. But if you could walk in there at any time, there's always things going, a smell in the air, the beeping of the extrusion lines ready to
That's so
reload.
cool.
Um, but there's a lot
It
of
would be
automation we're working on
interesting.
too.
I mean, I'm sure this is information we'll never get, but looking at like the math of, okay, for stuff made in China, you've got to ship because you guys use IGEO PLA, which I think is only made in the US. I'm not sure. But
Yep.
between shipping and then labor costs have gone up so much in China, automation has brought down labor costs so much in the US. It would be so interesting to me to just know if it's even more expensive right now with tariffs and stuff, a spool made in the US versus made in China. I know we'll never know. Uh, but
I
it
don't
is
know. I
very
could probably
interesting.
find out, but I'm sure. Yeah, I mean the gap is going to come close. Going to be a smaller and smaller gap as time goes by. Just the
Yeah.
way that everything as the world turns.
It is interesting as well to see like what American consumers consume versus European versus maybe Chinese consumers. Uh, I can only imagine the investment, not just setting up lines. It's like doing all the hard work to figure this stuff out, but also to match colors across the world is a massive
Yeah,
undertaking. It's incredibly difficult. Most companies cannot match from one batch to the next perfectly.
let
So to
alone 2
match from
completely
one
different locations.
facility, it's insane. And there's only one time, and it was a spool that had sat, in the sun for 3 years. So not in the sun, but near a window for 3 years. There's only one time I've ever caught you guys slipping, and I sensed that it was because the filament sat out in front of the window, where it was like ever so
Just
slightly
slightly.
off. And I sent it to you, and you're like, we're going to do a full investigation. That was very impressive.
Oh, yeah, the batch numbers are on there for a reason, so we can find out is this a issue with just one spool or one batch. But and that's what you're talking about, the color consistency. I still don't fully understand how it works. Like I've seen it happen. I've seen everything that they do, the colors that they blend in with the hopper, but in the end, it's just clear opaque resin pellets along with color pellets. How that mixes a cup of red into that so evenly, there's magic somewhere in between the hopper and the feed line that I do not fully comprehend.
Well, and I bet if I had to guess, I would bet first off there's, RAL colors and stuff like that, but I would bet whoever's doing this is much smarter than me, and I would bet the pigment is coming from the same supplier. Even if it's,
Yeah.
you're shipping, so it's the exact same pigment, not even same supplier, they're manufacturing here. It's literally, you're either shipping pigment from the US to China or China to the US, because that part has to be perfect.
Precise. Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
Yeah, because
then
I mean, a tiny little formula change can change things.
totally. And then what I've also realized is even on my small art may extruder is there is a certain amount of play where the difference between 5% black virgin material and 6% is almost, and then when you're talking these huge extruders, if you have in a batch of 300 kilos of Polymaker red, 1 gram too much on accident, because the employee accidentally, dropped
Bumped it or yeah.
I imagine that it's a economies of scale thing where the more filament you're making, the more forgiving it is with just 1 gram too much pigment. But I don't know.
I would
that's just
imagine.
my
I don't know
experience.
the real answer, but yeah, I would imagine the same. It's just it's you have a little bit more of that variance that you could maybe tip the scale a little bit, but either
Right.
way, it's precision on their end, and that's
Oh
one thing
wow.
too is talking with consistency of color and all that. It's one thing to have the formula right. It's something we found out in a previous formula that wasn't well. It's now released, but without saying too much, is we found there was a color variation. There was color banding if you did large prints in this certain color, and we're trying to figure out what it was, and they got it down to figure out that it was the change in temperature and humidity in the Houston factory from when they trained everybody to make this filament to when they went to do the actual production that changed this. And it was like that, and then they got it down to exactly this is why, because the temperature changed it and it adjusted the color just slightly. I was like, it was very interesting to learn that fact. I'm like, okay, well, it
That's
again shows that
insane.
there's more magic that goes into it.
That's insane. I would have never assumed that temperature and humidity actually impact color. So here we go. We learned something.
At
And
least this
that
specific
also,
filament, it definitely did.
if so, that may not be the standard filament. It sounds like, but uh, that makes me wonder if when we actually print that filament, does it matter, right? Like if I open the printer during that to insert some hardware or magnets, I've now brought the temperature down. It's
I don't know. Yeah,
interesting.
I don't know if being that as a final product at that point, maybe not, since it's such a slight
It's blended.
variation
Yeah.
as opposed like to our warehouse. Our warehouse is open air. The
Oh,
doors are usually up, the vents are on, and everything. So in the summer, it is hot and humid, and the winter, I would imagine, it's Texas, so slightly colder depending on the winter they have.
got you. Got you. Well, I think it's a good time now to thank one of our other sponsors before I ask you many other questions that I have going. And that other sponsor is, wait for it, PCB Way. You guys know them. You guys love them. And they are your one-stop shop. Let me make sure I'm showing their website. They're your one-stop shop for all things fab. Just have a look at all these capabilities. I mean, LED PCBs, no problem. Through-hole assemblies, solder mask. I mean, they do things that I don't even know what they are. And it's super easy to order, right? Say you need to get something CNC machined, you go right into their CNC machining service. You just drop the file right in, or sheet metal fabrication, or injection molding. You drop the file in, they can even do vacuum casting. They will quote it out for you. They'll give you all the options. Just look how many different things they can 3D print for you. If you, like me, cannot reliably print PEEK, they can print PEEK for you. And they will do all the quality control for you. They'll even tell you if something in your model is a little off. And a professional engineer will say, hey, you should modify this or it's not going to be machinable properly. You can get a $5 welcome bonus using my link in the description. And thank you to PCBWay, another company that supports, I feel like, most of the creator community. And if they go away, we're all going to be in a world of trouble. What things are you really excited about now on the polymer side, on the 3D printing side? I mean, you see some things coming down the pike. What do you think is going to be a big deal Any predictions for 2026 before I give you mine and I hear what you think about it?
Of course, the one thing right up front that I'm excited about is the Snapmaker U1. Following it from the beginning. Of course, we had some internal information of it, but seeing it in action, it was at 3D Printopia. I think 4 or 5 tables had one there. I already backed it on Kickstarter prior to that, but it's one of those. I was very excited to back the Bamboo X1C when it was coming out, and that was a new company, so there's still that gamble. That was fear, like, is it really going to be what it says it is? With Snapmaker, and I'm not a salesperson for Snapmaker, is their name has been in it. They have made quality machines, so it's like, okay, if they're releasing this, and everybody that I've talked to that's had it has loved it. It makes me that much more excited that I backed it, and of course, less chance of a risk there.
Yep. Yeah, I love mine. I'm really excited to get my hands on a production unit, not because the pre-production one is bad, but because I just want another one. Um, and I was like, I really should check, that the production units are
Yeah, I should do a
snuff.
comparison. I mean,
For
it's
my
my duty,
audience,
right?
it is it is my duty ethically, really.
Absolutely,
So
I agree with you.
I'm excited about that, but also it's amazing how between getting that and the Prusa XL, which I got a few months ago, my whole design process has changed, where I'm just like, this would just be easier to do in multi-material, or I want to make this print in place, so I'm just going to stuff some soluble supports in there. Like, it's so easy and so cheap. Even like the tiniest little thing, this is the camera bracket I showed earlier. I was like, well, I could glue a piece of TPU on there to make it squish and hold the uneven surface. It's too much work. I'm just going to print the TPU and stitch it in,
And that's what I found even with the H2D is that, it's not a tool changer by any means, but it does a little more efficiently, especially like 2 colors. I found myself throwing a lot more multicolor stuff at it, and I've got AMSs, other machines, and they do great. But even with unlimited filament, it's still one of those things. It's time. It's do I want to have that much waste on doing this? So that's what I'm super excited about. Having all the filament I have is I'm going to print a lot of multicolor stuff.
And for me, it's like I'd rather have the machine spend, an extra hour. I'd rather spend 10 minutes in CAD and have the machine spend an extra hour than even 10 minutes of gluing, because I have this super nasty habit where, I'll print out all the stuff and then I'll put it on my desk and say when I have a few minutes or I have a lull in my day, and it never comes. I literally have projects that I haven't assembled. The assembly process
is always to put off.
Like 2 years I've been saying I'm going to assemble that mechanical counter thing that everyone was printing, and it's just sitting on a shelf somewhere. Whereas if the printer prints it and it's print in place, you just put it into.
And it just feels like a lot better finished product than gluing something together anyway.
Also true. I wonder, what filaments are you guys excited about? Polymaker just announced a ton of new filaments, but between what you guys have coming out and what's coming down the pike, like, what are the materials that you guys think are going to be really big next year?
Next year, so people have come at us all this year about TPU. Now that TPU has become a lot more, ease of printability with the printers that are out there, people are finally printing with it. Before it was you printed as you needed something. Now, of course, we see the shoes, we see all sorts of multicolor TPU being printed, even with the Snapmaker. We're limited on color wise of TPU, so we've toyed with it. I know there's some things in the works, but I think TPU will be one of the ones where we kind of embrace, get more colors. But aside from that, you've seen now, actually, we just released today our PET GF. So some of the GF and CFs of getting color added to them. So we had the ASA carbon fiber a few weeks ago. Some amazing colors in those. I love the dark red and the navy blue. The PET GF is going to be, I think, gray, light gray, black, white, red, and blue. A little bit lighter colors of red and blue, but that we've had people, even again before I was with Polymaker, people in the community that were engineers and do use that engineering filament. Where are the colors? Why can't we have a color? So it's nice to see those colors coming. I think there's many more to come.
Yeah, so it's interesting. You have insider info. I have kind of outsider info about just the stuff that new startup filament companies are dropping in my inbox every day. And so I can kind of see trends of like what the bigger, more respected players are gonna look into, because it comes down to market demand, right? And so
Yep.
I think, first of all, I've been saying this for a while now, I think nylon is due for a revisit, and a lot of people now have the enclosed printers, heated chambers. I think nylon is going to have a renaissance in the way that ABS had a renaissance. Well, ASA, ABS had a renaissance of people like, oh, I can print this and I don't need to be afraid of it like I always was. And the end products, I mean, ABS is the most commercially produced plastic in the world for a reason. It has so many wonderful properties.
Oh yeah.
And a few very bad properties, but so I think nylon is due for a revisit, and I'm encouraging people to get into and experiment with nylons. I agree with you, TPU, and especially like the foaming TPUs are going to be interesting next year.
I'm hoping. I haven't messed with yet. I was very sure. I want to try that and see. I don't have any inkling of what we have in plan for that, but I want to get it just to kind of mess with it, because it looks like a very interesting material.
Well, and Fadis has, they just came out with some. So that's
Okay.
maybe easier to get than VarioShore. I think VarioShore only ships in Europe or something like that. And then I'm seeing, I don't know if it's going to end up being a flash in the pan like the tri-extrusions were, a few years ago. But everyone's coming out with a PEBA. Everyone.
That has been the hot one. And that's where I like to see too, as I've seen some random filaments. I think it was, what was it, PCTG, for a short span. It was like being talked about, like, hey, this is being brought out, and I believe our product managers looked into it. I don't know what the final decision was on it, but I'm waiting to see, is PEBA something that's going to stick for a little while, or is it just one of those fads where it's cool, but what am I going to use it with?
That's always my thing with PEBA, is like, okay, what am I, unless I'm 3D printing basketballs, what can it do for me that TPU can't? Like, do I need the energy return? Because, my big like use case for TPU is stuff that my kids are going to bang around, right? Like doors and doorknob covers and stuff. And I don't want bounce back. I want absorption. Pete Webb says, PEBA's hot right now, but I wonder how long it's going to be hot.
That's one of our product managers.
Yep. And it's always, I wonder, like, the burden of education is so high on you guys, but also on myself. More creators like Igor, MyTechFun, and Stefan, who actually do the scientific work. But the burden of education of saying, like, okay, here's why you would use nylon, and here's why you would use PEBA. It's a lot to educate people. We're only now getting there with TPU, as you said. Lost in Tech is doing some amazing work explaining to people, like, no, a high shore hardness TPU is kind of the perfect material. So what are you guys doing? I know the answer, but I want to give you an opportunity to say, what are you guys doing to help with that education component, to where people have the confidence to spend, $30 on a roll of something different and know that they're actually going to be able to use it and print it?
Really the marketing. So even in the short time, it's been over a little bit over a year that I've been part of Polymaker, is right prior to coming on board, we had our Co-PE launch. And I'll be the first, I've admitted it on live streams myself, is it wasn't marketed the best. There was some stuff, and nothing was intentionally left out. Now that I'm part of it, I've seen how the process works. Nothing was intentional. There was just bits and pieces that the marketing just wasn't handled the best. The product managers now, not that they weren't doing this prior, are putting a lot of testing into place, trying to get material out there to be tested by others, get feedback there, and become, and also reviewing all the marketing stuff, because we are an expanding team. There's new people all the time. There's a lot of steps into it. And that's, and we have, of course, our quality control steps in our filament. I like to say that we kind of have that now in our marketing, and just talking about the technical aspects of the filament. And I think just being as transparent as possible, and letting the community know, pretty much everything we can without, giving them too much information, proprietary stuff. But I think just getting as much information out there and being transparent. And then if we do make a mistake, owning that mistake, and I've seen it done in the past, is owning the mistake, correcting it, trying to answer questions as best as possible as those questions do arise.
Yeah, what I've seen that you guys are doing really well, and I want to say keep doing it, is you guys have a new channel, Polymaker Lab, where Sean from Polymaker is just doing these shorts, right? And even I'm learning, oops, that's my mic. Even I'm learning stuff, and it's like literally my job to learn this stuff and then hopefully teach it to my audience. And I'm learning a ton. I'm like, oh, I didn't know CoPE behaved that way. And he's, got the lab coat on. And it's just these like 2-3 minute short bites of like, you probably didn't know this about ASA, but did you know that it can do this in this way? And
I've learned stuff from myself.
Super educational, and also, the problem with some of the content creators, well, all of us, our problem is like we got to have meat on the bone to make like long form content. Like I guess I could do a video about CoPE, but like that's a Igor at My Tech Fun video, and that's like huge time commitment for someone to do a whole long form video. But these shorts where it's like, and shorts don't pay, so for you guys to do the shorts makes sense because you guys have the financial incentive. Whereas I think, for a lot of the content creators, it's hard to offer that education in the way that you guys can. Not because of the technical knowledge, more just because of the business model, right?
Yep, just how things work. I completely understand. But I think, Sean does an amazing job. I always tout it on my show as, he does tips, tricks, and troubleshooting that you may have already encountered or you may encounter in the future. So it's exactly that. It's short bits of information. Watch it. Some of it might not pertain to you ever. Some of it might be stuff you've already figured out on your own. But like I said, I myself, working for the company, have learned watching his stuff of like, wait, seriously? Like, message Sean, like, is this true? Like, yeah, of course it is. And he's also made our wiki, wiki.polymaker.com. Sean is the mastermind behind putting that all out there, and kind of puts that information, or I guess vice versa, puts the information on wiki and then uses that information a lot of times for his shorts.
Really cool. Really cool. And I wonder if you have any insight, like, because I want to understand how well we're doing as a community to educate people. Is it still the case that like 80% of all filament sales are PLA and PETG? Do you have any clue how bad it is?
Pete, if you're in the chat, you'd be best to answer that. I'm not sure where that divide is now, but I would imagine, I mean, the PLA is still the easy to print. It's still got the all the surface effects, all the colors. I would imagine still majority of the market is PLA.
Yeah.
I don't know what's dropped off. Obviously, PLA is taken over from ABS of the way back in the day, but I'm not sure how the market divide is.
I also, this is going to sound so entitled, but I also had like a come to Jesus moment, I guess you would say, because here when I'm in the States, just because of logistics, I went and bought my own filament. I actually ordered some of it and bought some, and I was like, oh, right, like most people, if they want to do a project in nylon, need to buy a whole roll of nylon, not just order. I know this sounds super entitled, but not just tell Joel, hey man, I want to do a project in nylon. And it's like, there's actually the financial component of like, am I going to use the whole roll? Like, I only need this in nylon, and I can't just buy this much in nylon. So there is that financial component of like, can I really use a kilo of nylon? So I get it, right? It's safer to just go with PETG will work well enough for this. Nylon.
But even with the access I have to the filament, is I still do that. And that's where people are like, all the filament you have, like, how do you need more? Like, when I go to print something, like, especially nowadays, big stuff is cool. I don't have 5 spools of every filament we have. I have mostly one spool with some multiple spools of most of the catalog. But like you said, as it comes down to that, is now seeing it from this perspective is how much would I, if I had to spend $80 on filament, am I really printing this ridiculous thing that is awesome? And I don't display it in the background, whatever it might be. But there becomes that decision making at the time of, what do I go with, or do I just do it solid color and just live with it?
And do I open the roll knowing that it's gonna? Yeah, I recently heard something interesting.
Just do this much.
We should ask a product manager, but someone sent me a report that they did where like once certain filament types, I should say, absorb water, and you remove the water, he claimed that you can restore it well enough to print back, but the plasticizers inside that make the filament pliant enough to print are permanently degraded if water has gone in once. So it's kind of a situation where, kind of like reheating, leftovers. It's like the water's gone, but it's still better to always have the filament dry if you can. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but
So in conversation with Nick, this is a year ago or so, is and don't anybody quote me on this, but was, because we're talking about like when you have a spool sitting on your shelf and you go off and it snaps at the end. Well, normally you pull 6 to 12 inches off until it doesn't snap anymore, and you're good. And I was always under the assumption, I believe most of the community was, that was because it was absorbing moisture, becomes more brittle. And he was saying, science-wise, that's not the case. It's more of degradation over time. So as it sits on your shelf, it doesn't have anything to do with the moisture content in it. Like, okay, I said, I guess that makes more sense, because I always just try to fathom, like, if it has more moisture in it, how is it more brittle? Like that's you kind of think dry is brittle and wet is soft. But but yeah, it was more of degradation over time rather than moisture degradation.
Right, and what
the science behind it, I'm not a science, so
what he claimed, at least that's what I thought he claimed, was that the degradation comes not from it being stored in a plastic sealed bag, but it's actually the plasticizers degrade due to being exposed either to the air or to the humidity in the air. But basically, filament can last much longer in a sealed bag.
And I think too, and I think a lot too was the science, and I don't remember any of the in-depth stuff. Is of course, spooled filament is under tension, so there's that tension, too, that causes that degradation.
True, I hadn't thought about that. So it really makes you wonder, like, am I going to open a roll of $80 nylon CF to print this, or am I going to wait? It does make me wonder why nobody has done. I think I know the answer. It's just logistically and otherwise a nightmare. But like, you go on AliExpress, you order like an M3 hardware kit, and it's like 10 M3 by 6, 10 M3 by 10. If someone does this, here's an idea for you. Whereas if someone offers a $500 filament sampler kit, right, which is like 150 or 200 grams of 50 different kinds of engineering grade filaments. I mean, it's a nightmare to package, and knowing how filament extrusion works, it's literally like it would have to be done by a robot, because no human is going to go tick, 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 tick. But I think it would be really interesting just to get people using those materials, right?
Oh yeah, and that's where, like I said, a lot of times too, is where we push the giveaway so much, is it allows people to try filament. If you don't have to spend your own money on it and it's a free spool, okay, maybe I'll try this. Or like, I was never going to print ABS, but if I don't have to pay for ABS, it gives you a chance to try, because I think that's a lot of it is, number one, realizing that you can print it, because you're back on the talk on nylon, is I think as long as I've been printing, I had never even tackled any of the nylons or the fibrons until last year. Yeah. So I mean, I was going, because it was the same thing as most community is. You're scared of it, like it's this material, it's got this, it could be brittle. Like, no, I threw it in the bamboo, spit it out. Like, that was much easier than I thought, and then I started printing more with it. So now I do. Now it comes to the point that I've printed it and know that it's it is printable. Is getting the idea of what am I printing? Should I print it in this or this? So unfortunately, with my indecisiveness, it causes more delay in producing something.
Yeah.
But and I know in the end, I'm using the exact proper material for it.
Yeah, and I will say to Polymaker's credit, you guys have a lot of 500 gram and 750 gram spools of the more expensive stuff, which is just a great way to. I've noticed that if you do that, where it's like, okay, PETG you guys sell in 500 gram increments, but then you can also get a 3 kilo. So you've really made it. If this is your material, you don't have to buy 50, 500 gram spools, but also it makes it so much more approachable. And I always try to encourage people. I know I'm saying this from a place of privilege where I get free filament, but try other filaments, because it's almost like, imagine you have a Makita impact driver or drill, and all you have for it is drill bits. You never get the hex bit. You never get the Forster bit.
All the adapters.
You have this powerful tool that you're only using for printing PLA. I had a great question, and here we go. Controversial topic, but I think if I'm going to broach it on the live stream with any company, it's going to be with you, which is
there we go.
Open RFID tags. I've been pushing this case at anyone who would listen, and I've been surprised by how many of the 3D printer companies have said, we can easily add support on our printers to read another open RFID spool thing. But even say like, yeah, we're not that committed. I'll just say Elegoo has said, we're going to do something. We don't need to have our own proprietary one. As I understand it, Polymaker is also interested in this. How much can you say about that?
So funny thing is that discussion actually just I want to say just got brought up because it's been a kind of an ongoing discussion. Is someone else is in China talking to people, and I've actually messed it out because I don't know where we're at on discussion. I know we have talked about it. There was nothing that we've been firm on. We've been approached by a couple different creators of different RFID formats. So I can't say we're going to swing one way or another. I know 100% it is something we're looking into, and what me and this other person had talked about today is it's going to take one of the big companies to be the first to take a step. I think everybody right now is in the shadows, like watching, waiting for that first company to be like, we're going with this one before they pounce on that standard. And I hope that we can be the one. I don't have any in-depth information. I know it's in discussion. I don't know where we're at in that discussion.
Fantastic.
Hopefully sooner than later.
I suspect what's going to happen is, as you said, the first one's going to take the plunge. They're going to get a massive goodwill boost in the same way that, I don't know if I can share this, but I'll just say I heard through inside sources that after the whole open sourcing of replacement part printables things, that Philips was literally overwhelmed by the response and like the boost in sales and the number of people who went out and were like, switch their razor immediately. So I sense that's what's going to happen to the first printer and filament company who do it. And then it's going to create this real awkward situation where anyone else who doesn't do it,
they're the outsiders.
Yeah. The easy win would have been for Bamboo to open theirs up and license, but that hasn't happened. And I think the world is ready to move on to another standard. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because I think that's one of the things too is I've had the discussion. I think even you and I have had the discussion is if somebody jumps forward, this becomes a standardization for the rest of the companies, and then that and nothing against Bamboo, but that leaves Bamboo out. They're going to adopt it, or they're going to they're going to intermingle because they're not going to want to lose out on that part of the market. And I think especially we're getting now to the point of more and more convenience, more ease of use, and as simple as it may seem, like if I can just put the spool in there and not have to go into the thing and push a couple buttons, ideal. So again, hopefully sooner than later.
Yes, and what many people don't realize is that some of the implementations can track how much filament is on the spool, and then you can warn the user, like, hey, according to my records, because it can update the tag.
Isn't enough.
Yeah, you don't have enough to complete this print. A huge feature, right? Like, how many times have you gone and looked at the spool? This happened to me yesterday. You go, you look at the spool, the little hash mark, it's not super accurate. It says 200 grams, and then you run out. I probably have a print right here.
I have done this out the window, and like, it's close. I'm going to push it, and then 9 times out of 10, I need to load another spool.
I was so close. That was the difference. I was 5 grams off, right? But an RFID tag knows how much it actually extruded. So that there's myriad benefits to it. There's also I keep shaking the table. There's the inventorying thing, right? If you're a print farm, Bamboo's tags and many of the other tags do not work with your phone's reader, but some of the open standards, I'm blessed to have this problem thanks to you, where I'll get a shipment of 30 spools, and sometimes I'll double order because I forget, oh right, I put one on top of the, You can just write into Spoolman or other inventory software, just tap your phone. There's so many other benefits.
In your inventory, and absolutely.
Exactly. So it has to be done. It's just a matter, like I said, I'm really trying with what limited influence I have to twist arms and say, guys, if you're the first to do this. And I think, look, if I had to pontificate, look at the chat, right? Based on who is the most pro-consumer, pro-maker company in the filament side of the industry, it's Polymaker. If I were a betting man, I would bet that you guys would be the first to do something so pro-consumer. But it's just, I guess it's a it's a huge bureaucratic undertaking.
And I like to say it's a race, but I think that's where the reason we haven't seen anything out right now again is kind of just that everybody's in the background waiting for something to happen. Like, well, we can go this way or this way, but yeah, I know there's a lot of good ones. I know one that I've talked with. I apologize, can't remember his name, but helped create Tiger Tag, and that was one that I'll say, you know, approached me and said, hey, and actually was nice enough to send me one of the initial setups and everything for it. Worked great. You know, a little bit not user friendly at that point, but the idea is just that standardization or that format. You know, so I know that's one of the ones up in the air. I think there's 3 other like bigger, you know, competitor or bigger ish communities or projects.
RFID as well, I think. Now, Tiger Tag, I couldn't figure out if it's actually open source or if you need to buy the tags from them.
That's a good question. I never had to buy any. I think open source, but don't quote me on that. So yeah, when he sent me everything, I was sent cards and tags and stickers to play with.
It's one of those things where someone has to do the legwork and actually figure out what the standard is. And I think, you know, like we said before, you guys have tons of fantastic chemists and PhDs there, but probably not a lot of people working on the cybersecurity team at Polymaker in terms of like what is going to be a tag that is secure and
makes sense. Yeah, has the right information, can't be, you know, messed with per se. But yeah, like I said, 2026. I mean, maybe still never know. Maybe sooner. Maybe they're working on a project I don't even know about. That's a possibility.
Yeah. So, any other things that you're really excited about on the material side? You'd mentioned the PETGF came out
today.
What else would you encourage people to experiment with that's new?
New material wise. So right now I'm just more focused on what we have. We still have a handful of releases for this year, but
oh really?
There's one we'll say stay tuned in December. I can't say much about it, but it's not one that necessarily a consumer is going to be like, that's awesome, but it's going to be a really cool use case. Let's just put it that way. And to tell you the truth, the actual material itself, I don't even know what it is. It might be a PLA base. I don't know for sure, but I know what the use case is, and it'll be a really, again, not for consumer necessarily, but a cool filament to come out. So I'm interested in that. I'd say filament wise, color wise, there's a large release. We haven't announced anything yet, but saves, you know, start packing your wallets for next month. We'll just say that's all I can say. There's a lot. If you like color, there's a lot coming.
Oh man, that's really exciting. That's really, really exciting. Well, very cool. So I think we've just about covered most of the questions I want to cover. Let me go ahead and look at some of the questions that we haven't completely moved on. Nadir at CN3D wants to know, are there more ABS ASA colors? It sounds like you can't answer that, but Jess did answer that.
Hello, Nadir. But yeah, that most likely. I don't honestly know for sure. But as long as they continue to sell well, then yeah, we'll be coming out with more colors.
Are we allowed to have Projects in Dad's Garage wants to know if we're allowed to have information on an ABS Pro. I didn't know that was in the works.
Yeah, I could talk. So it's out there. We are working on an ABS Pro. I don't know the technical stats behind it. The reason it is out there is a couple of our product managers and Nick actually attended Vice, the Voron meetup over in Portland, Oregon last week. And they brought some Voron Red ABS Pro with them to hand out to the participants. So participants there are the only ones in the world outside the company that have gotten a spool of this. And that they're still, it's not a final product. I think the formula itself for ABS Pro is pretty much finalized with the color. They wanted to get some to the event, so it's not exactly the color that's going to be in production, but there will be. I don't know the date on that yet, but yeah, it's out there, so I can say that much about it.
What does an ABS Pro look like? Is it just better layer adhesion, stronger, more impact? Because ABS is pretty pro in my mind.
Yeah, so on our Polymaker Prime family, we have Pete that's in chat. We also have Matt, who is more of the high temp stuff for Polymaker. ABS, ASA, PC, etc. And he luckily has a background where he's been part of the Voron community for quite some time prior to ever being on board with us. So he knows, he's seen all the complaints of our current ABS, what people want to see, what characteristics there are. So it is going to be ideally, a custom printer's dream filament to build their Vorons with. And Matt takes it very serious, and he takes a very technical approach to that side of things. So it's not about the flashy colors, the flashy surface effects. It's, does this work, and does it work right? And is there any, it doesn't want any misconceptions. Everything is what it is. So it is to hopefully win over the people that might not be a fan of our ABS currently.
Interesting. So maybe a little bit more rigidity, maybe. Okay. All right. That's interesting.
So if you got a friend in the US that received one, you can try to bribe them for a spool. I don't even have a spool of it.
Jerry says you can make the ABS Pro colors be smell coordinated. So blue smells like blueberries when you print it.
We do not encourage smelling burning filament or melting filament.
That is fair. Well, Joel, I think we've pretty much come to the end of our time. I wanted to thank you guys, A, for coming on the show, but also just for everything that Polymaker does for the community. As I think the chat can attest to, you guys are out there every single day helping people get the most out of their 3D printers, but also just educating people. So I really appreciate all the stuff you guys are doing, and I am very proud to be one of your Polymaker partners. So thanks for coming on the show today.
I appreciate it. Hey, thank you very much, Jonathan.
Let's take care, and I hope I can get an invite. I can score an invite onto your podcast very soon.
Absolutely.
All right, my friend, let me take us out, and we can debrief. Take care, everyone.
See you later.
Thanks for tuning in to the Infill Podcast. For show notes or links to anything mentioned in today's episode, visit thenextlayer.com. If you enjoyed the episode, please don't forget to leave us a review wherever you're listening, or click the like button to let us know. And consider subscribing to The Next Layer on YouTube so you can tune in live and participate in the next conversation. We'll see you on The Next Layer.